Hi.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Al Paris. Hi, welcome to Digging for Gold. This is episode 3. We have a very special guest, another special guest, my good buddy, Al Paris, who is a celebrity chef and my favorite chef in the entire world. I've traveled all over the world, and never have I met and had the pleasure of eating the food of a chef like Al Paris. How are you, Al?
Thanks, Dan. I'm great.
Good.
Great.
Good. I got a question for you.
Go.
How did you start out in the food business? Culinary business, a better way of putting it, I think.
Well, my mother was a single mother. My grandmother pretty much was my preschool. I spent the day procuring dandelion and chicken along the road and going and getting the chicken killed and making soup and making pasta. And all day we'd cook. So I thought this was life. And then when I got to be about 11, a friend called me. Somebody kind of got bounced out on a Mother's Day, 850 covers at the Coach Inn. They said, "You want a job here?" I was tired of my paper route. I went and I did it. It was the most exciting 12 hours I've ever had. I told them I was 14 to get the job, by the way. But by the end of that
Didn't
shift,
you have to be 16?
you had to be 14 then. And by the end of the day, I was hooked. The excitement, the smells, the intensity, the purpose. I mean, it was so exciting. 4 o'clock in the morning, we're cleaning up, and I'm like, I'm in. And then I had a nice 55-year
That is pretty cool.
career.
That is pretty cool. I'll never forget this. By the way, Al owned one of my favorite all-time restaurants, the Paris Bistro in Chestnut Hill, which is unfortunately no longer there.
Only in
but
our hearts.
In our hearts. And it's Al Paris, Paris Bistro, French food, and some other European things thrown in there. But your background is Italian, right?
Yes.
It's really Parisi, correct?
Well, that was before it was changed at
Right.
Ellis Island, yes.
Yeah. We were eating. I bring in a bunch of people from Germany. You know, I taught university in Germany. And one of my friends, the professor, his name was Max, he had cassoulet. And
The
when
mastery of cassoulet.
the mystery of it. And I'll never forget what he said. He said to me, and he may have said it to you actually as well. He said, "I've been to the place in France where they invented cassoulet,
Toulouse.
and I've never had a cassoulet as good as this one. This is better than the cassoulets I had in France."
A lot of classic technique in cassoulet. The confit, the turbine beans, the way you render the sauce. It's about 8 classic technical steps. It's one of the things that belonged on the menu even in the summer months at Paris Bistro. I chose to end my restaurant career with Works of Enduring Excellence, which is pretty much the distinction of what classic cuisine is. And the beautiful thing about the unity of classic cuisine, music and food, you know, we do discovery geologically and traditionally in all parts of the world to garner these classic dishes from Poland and France and Italy. And you learn about the people and you learn about how they come to the earth. But technique is consistent in every country. Braising is braising. It's a coming together of and everybody has once you see, like Da Vinci said, once you learn to see, you see that everything's connected to everything else.
It certainly
All
is.
cuisine is universal, and the song that cassoulet sings encompasses an orchestra of techniques. That's why that dish has layer upon layer upon layer of flavor.
Oh, it was so good. So good. Wish we had a kitchen right here, Al, so you could, muster some up, as they say.
It only takes 3 days.
Yeah, we got time. I want to get back to your origins. in
Yes.
this, okay?
The proverbial origin story.
Correct. Once you were that 14-year-old,
Yes.
okay, and got hooked.
Yes.
What were the next steps? I know you've worked with some well-known,
Yes.
big-time chefs. What were the steps?
Well, there's a long legacy of chefs being the road to self-discovery, right? The beginning of all knowledge is knowledge of oneself. We actually learned that. You taught that in your course. And it's so true because you can acquire knowledge, but without experience, you don't know what to do with it.
Correct.
So there's Antoine Carême, the first king of chefs, chef of kings, was an orphan in the French Revolution. He fell into a kitchen, and this is a story that time and time again you will see people finding who they are and belonging and orphaned in one way or another in their life. Find a family, a home in a kitchen, and through the challenges and the flame and the fire and the medieval hours, they find out who they are, right? And they find a big part of the language of chefs is finding your voice. Well, to do that, you need to work with mentors.
Yeah.
They need to bring it out of you. And I've had great mentors in my career. And then I had great fellowships with Paul Bocuse and John Blanchet and George Perrier and René Verdon and some really great, incredible people I could model. My mastermind group. People that, Bocuse was the greatest chef on the globe. George is the greatest chef in America. René Verdon was John F. Kennedy's chef, changed the face of American cuisine. These are then befriending Alice Waters and Jeremiah Towers, and it's just it was an amazing association of the family of cooks. Northern California really rooted in the foodstuffs of the little proprietary farms and long season there. So that spirit came back home to Philadelphia. But all the chefs pretty much talk the same language. Classic cuisines are really around classic markets, right?
Yeah.
And they're really tied into seasons. But once again, the more you learn, the more you see how connected it is. If you're in Singapore, you could talk to a chef through the food. Without even speaking the language. I was in Florence looking at a tripe soup in a kitchen, couple glasses of wine, the chef and I are talking two different languages, but the same language.
Yeah.
Like looking at his polenta and his tripe sauce. We understood each other, speaking two languages, but yet the same language. That's the beauty of it all.
It is. And it's interesting because, like you, I've traveled quite a bit internationally. And one of the first questions people ask is, how was the food? Right? They say, like, how was the food in France? How was the food in Germany? How was the food in Turkey? How was the food in Switzerland? It's always how was the food. What did you like there? And how was the food? And then how are the people? Right?
Well, it's a love language.
It is.
That's how their traditions are in. You get to consume their traditions.
That's correct.
It nourishes you. There's no. When I was at Harry's Bar and I met with Aurigio Cipriani in Venice, we had a long conversation. I was just opening up Rococo, and he told me, I don't like square tables. I like round tables. I don't like divisions between people.
Well,
and this
that's
is
great.
one of the finest grandmaster restaurateurs on the globe. And it's just, before anything, it's creation of environment and bringing people together. And then you say, this is who we are. This is what our legacy is. This is what the season has afforded us. It's a huge celebration. The problem with that sometimes is if you're immature and you're in the environment of celebrating, that consumes a lot of chefs. And they get distracted. Now, I'm not being romantic here. I think it's a terrible thing. But there's a distinction between celebrating heritage and overdoing it.
Yeah. No, I agree. So it's a balance.
Absolutely.
It's a balance, especially, I think, in the United States, because the United States is so, it's a melting pot. Okay. More and more countries are getting like that, but the United States is a perfect example. and everybody sort of treasures their, as you were saying, your grandmother, my grandmother, the food I had when I was growing up, okay, the food that this person had and that person, and learning that the food of their neighbor is just as good if you only take a chance and eat it. Okay. And then you begin to find out, wait a minute, maybe his grandmother. When I was in Nigeria, I can distinctly remember the food I ate at this restaurant.
Yes.
You know, it's one of those things that leaves an impression on not only your palate, but your mind.
Yes.
And it's
Your
visual.
heart, your spirit.
And you're right. And it's very visual.
It's outside of the realms of time.
It is.
Because if I make my grandmother's chicken soup, I'm having it for the first time 60 years later, and it's the same thing. This amazing, exciting experience of being able to trust someone the first time you meet them. Chef, what's your favorite dish to make? You know, and to be able to serve somebody up something that you've been doing for 40 years, right, for the first time. This idea of trust, and we teach leadership.
Yes.
This idea of trust is not naivete. It is trust. It is the opening of your heart. This idea of hospitality and service and trust. The open of your heart to trust someone to nourish you. And then also to share something that is so dear with you, from you, the chef.
Yeah.
They say the chef cooks for themselves first. I never quite understood that till about 30 years in. And what it is you have to strongly, terribly believe in what you're doing. Or it's just, it's
commodity.
rhetoric.
Yeah.
It's a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
It's, facsimile.
You brought something up, and I want to ask you, what was your favorite thing that you, as a chef, made as far as a dish? Did you have a favorite? Were there like 10 favorites?
I am so subject to the season and the day and who I'm with.
Yeah.
I am so subject to, if today was a dish, what would it be? And then I go and I get inspired at the farm. And every time, chefs work 2 months ahead on their menus.
Sure.
And we're always interpreting the next season. So I would say it depends on the setting. When people would ask me that in my restaurants, I would say peanut butter and jelly on the beach with the woman I love. And it was because
that
it's
works.
incredible. But, obviously that's not the finest dish I've ever made. I've
Right.
made, I've been known for salmon ossobuco with scallop roe, and I've been published on sea urchin roe custard with langoustine clarified broth I did for the Beard House, and there's dishes, right? But then there is your favorite thing to make, and that really that's a bringing together, right? A musica universalis, if you will. The orchestra is spinning in time right now for this moment, and that's that dish. And those dishes only ring once a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great way of explaining it.
Yes.
Great. Why do I want to speak Italian and French right now? I do. I can't help myself, but I won't because it's in mostly English speaking and listening audience. But
We can have a there's an app for that.
there is an app, I'm sure of that. So what you do, okay, you've worked with some of the greatest chefs in the world, and you are one of the greatest chefs in the world. God, I miss your food. But anyway, now
There's always barbecue.
there is always barbecue. There is. And I'll wait for the invitation, but that's a whole other thing, okay? Right now, you help people.
Yes.
You help restaurateurs. You help business people,
Yes.
correct?
What I've learned to do over the years was to create an environment, put forward a message based on what I believe in, that then I delivered on when people that resonated with it came to me and trusted me, that word again.
Yeah.
So what I do that for people now. I've founded Instill Hospitality to build.
Instill Hospitality.
Instill Hospitality.
That's instillhospitality.com, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's your website. Yeah.
And then what I do, it depends on what they need. It starts with team alignment. How's your team? Then it goes to what's your message, right? Your core values, your mission, your vision. And people think that's a little kumbaya until they understand, how do I communicate with my staff and how do I let people know what I'm about? Executive coaching is the same thing.
Yes.
Because some people you want to work for, some people you don't want to work for. Well, you have to put forward in your resume who you are and what you're about. Same thing with a business. You can't go chasing the magazine rack or the last trend to say, hey, yeah, I'm organic now, farm to table. If you don't really care, it's going to show out, and you won't
Exactly.
go through the hardship to do it. It won't have any value, right? So we write branding, content based on what your core values are, which don't change. Your mission and vision will change, but that's when you acquire new data. And that's about innovation. Innovation, when you come up with something, you need to be able to take a risk. You need to trust yourself. You need to have gone
Absolutely.
through hot and cold emotional situations and persevered in order to know how to build self-esteem. So when you get a challenge, you stay with your core values. If you bend to the ebb and flow of the marketplace, honestly, you'll fizzle out. You have to stand for something or you'll fall for anything.
Yeah, that's true, and I agree with you 100%. That's why when you look at fashion, to address something you said earlier, chefs think 2 and 3 months ahead, right? They want to know the next season. Fashion is the same way, because I had businesses in that area as well. So right now, we're in summer. Well, we're not in summer. We're end of spring, middle of spring. But they're already the buyers are looking for fall. Okay?
Yeah, we're in the hungry month now.
Yeah.
That's what the growers call this. There's nothing up, really. Asparagus will be coming, but
Yeah, which I just had the other night. So it's interesting how people who aren't in business don't realize that the business leaders, the buyers, the chefs, the entrepreneurs, they're always looking ahead. They're
Oh, yes.
always looking 2, 3, 4 months, 2, 3, 4 years. It's long term. Anybody who starts a business, you know this. It doesn't happen, bingo, overnight. It takes time. And you got to be patient. And I'm sure you tell your clients the same thing, isn't it? The truth?
absolutely. I help them to revisit why they're doing what they're doing, right? I found that early on. I was lucky enough to find that early on. I knew I was having dreams about restaurants when I was very young and marquees and the things I was going to do. It was wild how it came to me.
That is wild.
But it's a matter of, okay, you're confused. Okay, you don't know why you're performing. Okay, you don't know why people aren't hearing what you have to say. What did you do this for to begin with and why? Because now all you need to do is say, what are the principles that you live by, that the reason you exist? Why did you create this? Now let the principles be the boss. All you need to do is fulfill what your values are.
That's
And
correct.
then it's like, oh, yeah, oh, my goodness. I hired a new guy over my old guys, and they're all disgruntled. I didn't hire from within. I wasn't into family. I forgot about community. I forgot about tradition. I forgot about all the things I said I stood for that I knew what I was all about. And I just went chasing the dollar, and I sold them all out. And now I have nothing to say. I didn't listen to the people around me, and now they have nothing to say. So it's like, it's a matter of recalibration of meaningfulness.
Right. You're absolutely right. Stay with your values. Stay with the values are first, from my estimation, okay,
They are.
and my perspective. The values are first. The mission, how you get to those values, may change.
With new data.
It's
Yes.
with new data, exactly.
Yes.
But if you stick to your values and you take care of people, and from my perspective, my values were always, well, when I started Four Eyes, it was people before profit, okay? And it's always that way. Whether it's my students, my friends, they come first, my family. And that's the vision that you see until, hopefully, for the rest of your life, right? And then when you're gone, I always say to my students, when when I'm gone and you're my age and you remember something I told you, just walk by my dirt and just wave and say thanks, you know? Not literally, but in their minds. And that's what it is. It's what's this vision? What's your purpose
Yes.
on the earth? What is your purpose? We're all going to die. We know that. Some of us retire. Some of us can't retire. I don't know what I'd do if I retired. I always
What
say
does that even mean?
that's the problem. People don't understand that. I always said this is just me. A lot of my friends have retired. Retirement for me would be waiting for death. Okay, my grandfather lived to be 100. He retired from his engineering business. He built, for Philadelphians, he built the Swan Fountain on Logan Square, one of the iconic places in Philadelphia. But he kept working. At 100, he was still doing stuff. I'd say, Pop, what are you doing? You're getting up on the counter to change something. He said, what do you expect me to do? What do you want me to do? You know, this is what I do. I said, okay, that's it. So that's only me. Some people, they just live to just retire, and that's okay.
Get busy living
Get busy living, stay busy,
or
enjoying
get busy dying.
Or get busy. Exactly right. It's Warren Buffett said, somebody said to him, and this is paraphrasing, obviously, when are you going to relax? You're always working. He said, I'll have plenty of time to relax when I'm dead. That's the way hey, that puts it in right there. Okay, that's it. So you help people.
Yes.
That's what you do.
Yes. And always have.
Yes, and that's
You know,
that's
when I
important.
had chefs coming in, I had them make an omelet. That's all. I want to see their integrity. Then they get the job. Instead of Brunoise is a fine dice. I don't say make me a pan of Brunoise. I sit down with my manifesto. I tell them why I do what I do. I talk about the meaning of watch first, then ask questions. I tell them the meaning of getting in touch, how the seasons are so powerful. And then after the manifesto has been discussed, and I say, this is what I am here for. Then I give them a knife, I tell them to do a Brunoise. If you don't do that, chefs lead with their philosophy. You're going to get an inferior product because what is it? It's nothing. It's vegetables. It's a knife cut. You rush through it. Or it's the reason that you exist. You tell me those products aren't going to be different. I want it done fast, or this is going to define me as a
Absolutely.
human being.
Absolutely.
And people want you all in there. They want an expression of every molecule of your being in that Brunoise. It shows. And then what that is, Dan, as you know, it's the messaging in that Brunoise. When the guest sees it, they don't understand it, but their heart opens up because they go, the discipline, the care, the meaning, the consistency, the passion, it's all in that knife cut. Well, how did it get there? It's a perspective. It's the way they
Absolutely.
stepped to their cutting board.
And then the ultimate compliment is, this is fantastic. You
Knife
know,
cuts change the timing.
Yeah.
Everything is everything.
And the taste.
Yes.
And the taste. One vegetable doesn't, overrun the other one
Yes.
if that's the purpose of all the cuts.
It's important.
Yeah. This is great insight,
Yeah.
really. And the life of a chef,
Oof.
the life of a restaurant worker
Yes.
is crazy.
Uh-huh.
I know because both my son and my daughter spent years in the restaurant business. They're still sort of in the food business, both of them. And, my grandson was born. My son made a big commitment. He said, I'm retiring. I'm leaving. I'm quitting. I'm going to take care of my son, while his wife didn't have that ability to do that because she had a different kind of position. And that's what he did. So he was home with my son.
You know, restaurants are responsible for training the largest amount of Americans who are untrained in
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So many people have started in the service industry. And service is not what people assume, but once you've done it,
Hmm.
then you understand.
The hours are crazy.
The hours are medieval.
Yeah.
Literally medieval.
That's why my son left.
Yes. Yes. I got to raise 2 children, large part because of my wonderful wife,
Right.
Christine. And it enabled me, but then there was some law, you know, Sundays,
Mhm.
right? Saturday morning walks, you know, before they went to school, you know. I mean, we balanced once
Sure.
again that,
Sure.
but it's not easy. It's not easy. And then when you're there, you know, rallying the team after a hard service at 2 a.m. and you have a 7:00 a.m. brunch that you got to do, it's like you got to stay on your P's and Q's. You got to stay motivated. I used to play tricks with myself. I would go throw water on my face after 8 hours and say I'm just starting my shift, and put it another 8 hours. And I
Right.
would mentally tell myself I just arrived here.
Wow.
Yes, these are the kind of things you need to do to be fresh.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, because you're dealing with knives.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
dealing with weapons, basically.
It breaks down the same thing we're made out of.
Yep.
The stoves, the caustic air.
The whole bit. The fire.
It's about consciousness and awareness. I could be in the dining room smelling something getting scorched while I'm talking to somebody, go in the kitchen, the guy's standing in front of the stove, and I'd be like, Johnny, don't you smell that?
Yeah. Yeah, Johnny, where are you? In your head.
Don't worry about the game.
That's right. Don't worry about the game.
Be the
Yeah,
game.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's amazing. And a good restaurant, an excellent restaurant, an incredible restaurant, can be around forever. It can. That's why every time I walk past the old Paris Bistro, my heart sort of, cries a little bit.
A lot of these restaurants are incarnations of prior.
Yeah.
Nothing is really new. Once again, there's basic technique. But you see them come along and they say, why is that gone? Well, I was here 20 years. They go, how come bookbinders didn't make it, right?
Right.
50 years.
Yeah, 50
It's
years.
like everything has
Lifestyle.
there's a special, like Michelin star restaurants. These are teams that have been together in 4 or 5 other restaurants. These are people that know each other. When I got into the business in '68, they were all Europeans, right? And a lot of them were our age. I mean, they
Right.
were like off of cruise ships and stuff, coming to do the easy shifts in America. And very talented people, right? But there's a timeless aspect even to places that have a shelf life. The good restaurants, right? There's great restaurants now in Philadelphia, and Forsythia is one of them.
Mhm.
And he went and worked, Chris Kurse, in all the Michelin restaurants in Europe. So he brought that technology back and that passion back
Wow.
and the seasonal attention. In the classic restaurants, these works of enduring excellence, these restaurants are incarnations of those prior, with an infusion of eating trends now, like a little lighter, maybe coursing in tapas, but still the cookery never changes. We think we're way over our skis thinking that we're modern people. I mean, food and fire, we know also that fire is particular to the earth. It's one of the things that make us the most human. Fire doesn't exist in other places. This is the way that we human is through cooking. It's
true.
beyond.
It's
It
true.
was from an oxidation period.
Have
It
people-
allows us to have fire. This is a very unique thing in the universe.
Have people sit around a table,
Yes.
and it's
It's
all
total
of it.
consciousness.
Yeah, total.
Yes.
In Korean culture, the Korean sort of barbecue is in the middle of the table. The fire's in the middle of the table, and everybody is talking to each other. But it doesn't matter whether it's the Korean culture, the Chinese culture,
No.
the Yiddish Jewish culture, the Italian culture, the French, when you're sitting around a table with people with wine or some other beverage and food, the camaraderie, unless you have somebody that's off in space somewhere, it brings everybody together. Food brings people together, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful, your mastery. You're a master. So you're like literally an artist, a painter. The master chefs know all the ingredients to paint the picture that they're looking for.
You know, we spoke about Da Vinci in your class at a lecture, and he was a chef at 18 at the Taverna Tre Lumachi, the Tavern of the Three Snails. He invented cookery equipment. His food was very delicate, had a lot of, I have his cookbook actually.
Leonardo da Vinci's cookbook?
Da Vinci's, yes.
Really?
And he never finished a lot of things. He only finished 20 pieces that were commissioned. But he would do studies like on the Mona Lisa. He would find out which muscles in the smile came from the brain and which came from the nervous system. What came from the spinal area.
Wow.
So one was from the body, somatic, and one was from the mind, right? And that's why you can look away from the Mona Lisa and you see her smile, you look back and she's not smiling anymore. He actually broke down the anatomy of a smile, right? So we're always in discovery and we're never finishing. And this idea of mastery, Rach, I'm infatuated by. Mastery, and I've had moments of this, luckily, over the course of doing things 10,000 times.
Right.
And it's this sweet spot between pleasure and pain that is pure disconnection, but you get the feeling of connection because you're not, you have no implicit bias to anything. You are just the zazen. You are part of this
It's a great way of
action.
putting it. Yes, you are the zazen. You're right.
It's an amazing feeling, mastery, because you are in total humility of something you've done 10,000 times or more. You are the action, right? And that's the thrill that any artist
Correct.
that you're speaking of gets. That's why we're not really interested in finishing anything, right? Everything,
Right.
we're being born every second.
You're absolutely right.
And that's an entrepreneurial trait.
Total entrepreneurial trait. Total. I say that all the time. You know, I'm always starting new things because I love to start new things. It keeps my mind fresh. It keeps me going. I whether it's a course, a business, new students, whatever it is, or a book, a new book that I'm writing. So it's just that it's that juice.
Creation.
It is. It's creation, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
And that's what keeps us alive.
That's what
hopefully.
makes us alive.
Yeah, that's what the better way of putting it. That's what makes us alive.
Yeah.
And keeps life going. Al, this has been great, man. This has been great. Al Paris. Al, tell us how people can get a hold of you.
Well, al.paris@instillhospitality.com. And I'll answer any of your questions.
We will. My students love him when he comes to speak in the class.
We have a lot of fun.
We do.
That working with clay thing, I got to tell you, when I go there and I lecture, it gives me such hope for the future.
I have great students.
Yes.
They're great.
Yeah, and they have principles.
They have principles.
And good questions.
Yep. They're on top of it.
There's nothing without inquisivity. They need to be inquisitive.
And they are. And I love them all. I'll do anything for them, you know, within reason, obviously, but yeah, and they love you. So
And I love
I'm
them.
looking forward to you coming back as well. Al, thanks so much. Folks,
Digging for
Al
gold.
Paris, my favorite chef, master chef, celebrity chef, instillhospitality.com.
Dan Goldberg, master educator.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, folks. We'll see you on Spotify and hopefully soon on YouTube as well. Take care.